Hello everybody, this is Graeme, and today I'm going to be looking at Charted Building Amsterdam. Now in this game, players take on the roles of merchants in Amsterdam in the early, I think it's 1600s. You're going to be building up storehouses throughout the city to expand and store different goods that are coming in from the various trade routes that are connected to Amsterdam. You're going to be buying shares in different warehouses to hopefully make a profit at the end of the game. Now based on the size of the warehouses, when two of them are connected, one is going to take over the other like a merger, so that only one warehouse type remains. Now the game can be very easily traced its roots back to Sid Sackson's classic Acquire, but this has changed some aspects to make it basically its own game. On your turn, you're either going to be purchasing some cards, selling some shares, or playing a card to place a building on the grid. Will this building start a new warehouse, expand a warehouse, or connect two warehouses together? Each offers a different opportunity. Now, I was intrigued by the gameplay of this one, as it looked, kind of pretty straightforward, and I like the look of the 3D buildings on the box. You're going to be placing them around the board. The stock market piqued my interest as well. Each time you change the value of a company, whether up or down, you get a payout. And there were ways to make stock prices go down as well throughout the use of your special action cards. But you only have so many of those action cards for the entire game. So, will this game rise to the heights of greatness? Or should it never have been past the planning stages? Let's get it to the table, see how it's played, and I'll come back with my final thoughts on Charted Building Amsterdam. Here's Charted set up. Now, I've set up the boards for a first game, but there are other setups in the rulebook. All the warehouses are placed to one side. The stock chart, stocks, headquarters, and stock token for each stock is placed to one side along with all the money and the broken roof tiles. The event deck is shuffled and two are revealed. The building deck, which has one card for every space on the board and several, I'm going to call them build-up cards, is shuffled after some of the build-up cards are set aside and each player is dealt a number of cards based on the player count. For this 4-player game, it's going to be 9 cards per person. Each player also gets coins based on the number of players. Again, with 4 players, that's going to be 300 florins. Each player also gets 2 action cards. From the shuffled building deck, deal out 5 cards as the market. The goal of the game is to get the most money. On your turn, you'll either play a card to place a warehouse on the board to hopefully increase the size of an existing company and receive income, or you're going to be buying cards, or lastly, you could sell up to 2 stocks to get money as the only action on your turn. The game continues until the last warehouse is placed on the board. Then the game immediately stops. Players sell their stocks that they have for the current stock price, and the player with the most money is the winner. So on a player's turn, you have 3 options. You can buy 2 cards to the market, or the face-down draw pile. You can play a card, or you can sell 2 of your stocks, and each turn you'll only be able to do one of these. To buy 2 cards from the market, it costs 50 florins. Take any 2 cards from the display, and or from the draw pile. If you take a face-up build card, that's the only card you can buy. At the end of your turn, refill the market. A player can have a maximum of 15 cards in their hand. You cannot take an action to go over that, as you cannot discard cards from your hand. So if you're at 14 cards, you can purchase only a single card for that 50 florin. Now instead of paying 50 florins to take 2 cards, you can spend 100 florins to return all the cards to the draw deck, shuffle it back up, and make a new market. Then you can take 2 of those new cards. Now if you want to play a card, which is probably the action you'll be taking on many of your turns, you play a single card from your hand to place a single warehouse on that space. By placing out a new warehouse, several things might happen. If you build a warehouse that is not connected to anything else, actually nothing happens. If you build a warehouse that is connected to a single warehouse, so now there are 2 warehouses that are only connected to themselves, you have found a new company. When this happens, you get to choose from the remaining headquarters which company this is going to be. Take the headquarters market and place it on top of one of the warehouses. Take the stock market token and place it on the new value of the company. Company's value is always equal to 10 florins for every warehouse of that company, plus some bonuses which we'll talk about later. The headquarter piece has no value in itself. And you, as the founder of that company, can at this time at founding the company buy up to 2 shares at the current stock price, which is usually 20 florins for a new company. Now a new company has to be 2 plots away from any other company. Now instead of starting a new company, if you add a warehouse that's adjacent to an existing company, that warehouse will become part of that company and increase its stock price. If you play a build-up card, this allows you to add a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th level to an existing warehouse, and will increase the stock price accordingly to its level. 20 florins for a 2nd level, 30 for a 3rd, and 40 for a 4th. So, to build a 3rd level into a warehouse, there must already be a 2nd level on that same warehouse. You just can't jump levels. Now the last option after you've played a card is that you could be merging 2 companies. When you place a warehouse that connects 2 companies together, a merger happens. You get to decide what company that warehouse gets added to. Then, the larger company will consume the smaller. All players with stock in the smaller company now have the option to sell all of their stock in that company for the current stock price. Players can decide to hold on to that some of the stock if they think that company will be restarted later on in the game. The sold stock is returned to supply, and the smaller headquarters is also returned. Then you add the value of the smaller company to the larger company and remove the smaller company stock token. Now, one critical point to this game, especially with this action. Anytime you alter the stock price of a company, either up or down, you'll receive a payout based on the new stock price. But this also means that when a stock reaches its maximum, adding more warehouses will not increase its value, which means you do not get a payout. But if you found a new company, you usually get 20 florins for the initial 2 warehouses. When you expand a company, you get the new stock price in florins. And finally, when you merge 2 companies together, you'll receive a payout of the new stock price of the larger company. Anytime you place a warehouse, you'll also have the opportunity to trade up to 2 stocks on the market. Either buy 2, sell 2, or 1 each. It doesn't have to be the company stock you just changed, but the companies have to be on the board to trade their stock. You pay or receive whatever the current stock price is. This does not alter the stock price though. Now the third option you have on your turn is just sell 2 of your stocks instead of buying cards or playing a card. You'll receive the current stock price for the stocks that you sell, but you can only sell 2 this way. So those are the main actions you get to choose from on your turn. This keeps going until the last warehouse is placed onto the board, and that player finishes up their turn and the game ends immediately. Now there are 2 more things I need to quickly discuss. First are the events. Whenever a stock token passes one of these spaces on the stock tracker, an event occurs. The active player has the choice of one of the 2 face-up ones, or a random one off the top. And there are 5 different events. There are a few bidding ones, 1 auction, and 1 trade. For the bidding ones, players put coins into their hands, and then all at once they reveal. The winner usually pays their money to the bank. All other players keep their money. This one is the highest bidder gets a second turn right after their current one. For this one, the player receives one of the set-aside building cards randomly off the top. This one is unfortunately nasty. It's still a closed-hand bidding, but all players pay their bid to the bank, and the lowest bidder loses 2 stocks of their choice. This one allows the active player to trade with other players. They can trade building cards and stocks. The last one is an auction. The active player will actually choose an auction option, either auctioning off one of the stocks from the bank, auctioning off one of their own stocks, auctioning off the opportunity to take 10 building cards from the deck, take 1 and shuffle the 9 back into the deck, or they can auction off the top 10 cards from the discard pile and the winner will take 1 and return the other 9. Now this last option will also remove a warehouse from the board that matches the card they just took off. Since this is an auction action, the active player starts with the price and it continues until only 1 player remains. The last note are actually your action cards. Every player starts with 2 of them at the start of the game. On your turn, after placing a warehouse and getting your payout, you can forfeit trading the 2 stocks and instead spend 100 florins to play one of your action cards. When you play these action cards, you have 2 options. The first is to get a broken roof. If you have a broken roof, then on a subsequent turn, when you build a warehouse, you can add a broken roof to that warehouse. And instead of increasing the value of the company by 10 florins, this broken roof will decrease the value by 50 florins. The other action you can do with your action card after playing the 100 florins is to trigger a stock event. And this is going to act just as if a player had moved a stock tracker on the stock board. Now at the end of the game, all players sell all of their stock for the current stock price and add it to the remaining florins. And the player with the most money is the winner. Let's get back to see what I thought about Charted Building Amsterdam. Let's go with theme and components. The theme in this one is paper thin to non-existent. There's nothing in this game that gives you the vibes of Amsterdam in the 1600s, except maybe the commodities of the warehouses. But even then, it doesn't really matter. So if the theme does not intrigue you at all, no worries. The theme is gone even before you start playing the game. For the components, I do have some issues with them. First are the buildings. Now, I think they kind of look okay. Even though they are a pain to put together, they do stay together, for the most part. No, the issue I have is actually usability. Once these are on the board, they block the view of the other players. It's not a huge deal, but it is annoying to always have to ask, oh, is there anything behind that building? Do I need to wait for the card for that? I also found the colors to be a little weird. You have to make sure you're looking at the symbol on the warehouse and not going by the color when buying the stock. Now, all the pieces do fit back into the box, which I was worried about. I also don't like the look of these event cards. I know they wanted the game to be language independent, but even after multiple plays, I have to refer back to the rulebook to find out which one this is. I wish the pictures were more distinct and related better to what the event actually was. Now the rulebook does do a decent job of explaining all the rules. On to the gameplay. The basics of the game are pretty straightforward. Play a card, put out a building. Now with that said, the randomness of the card pulls can be fun and frustrating piece of this game. It can lead to an almost runaway leader. I've had at least a game or two where someone just kind of got lucky and monopolized one company and seemed to draw all the cards they needed to keep getting more and more money. It didn't happen every game, but enough that I started to notice it. I like the process of merging the two companies. It adds a bit of kind of tension to the game, but the larger company always takes over the smaller one. The active player can decide which company the current warehouse is going to be associated with, but that's usually not going to alter which one's larger. But it can come into play that the remaining stocks of the smaller company could be worth a little bit more when selling them during that merger. And I also like that you don't have to sell your stocks in that smaller company. If it's early on in the game, you can hold them on to hopefully, the company can be restarted at a later time. I like the level up cards, but I do wish that they were less restrictive. Why are there level 2, 3, and 4s? Why not just have a generic level up card? If there's a level 4 card early on in the game, it tends to sit there because there are so few of those cards in the deck, you might never see a level 2 or level 3 card in your hand. I'm assuming it's for balance issues that they're separated out, but the game already has a large dose of randomness. I'm not sure it would have mattered much just having generic cards. Now the event cards. These are probably my biggest issue with the game. They feel very tacked on to the gameplay to try and inject maybe some player interaction to the game. Unfortunately, they're the weakest part of the game and could probably just have been cut entirely. I assume that they're there to try and differentiate this game from similar games, but I just don't think they worked. And the event cards make someone lose 2 stocks. That will usually be the person who's currently in last anyway who's going to get punished even more. The only slightly interesting events are the auctions for the cards off the top of the deck or maybe the discard pile. Those are the ones that people tend to be most engaged with in my plays. All the other auction and trading, it just didn't work. People are like, I don't even want to do it. The action cards are another piece that should work in principle, but just don't quite work right in gameplay. If you decide to forego trading of stocks after building a warehouse, you can spend 100 florin to use an action card. You'll either call an event right now, which you already know my feelings on those events, or you buy a broken roof tile to be placed at a later turn. Again, this feels weird. Why don't I get to place it wherever you want, even after playing the 100 florins? You hold on to it until you want to play it, and you must play it with a normal building card to place it on that particular building. It just seems clunky, and I've only seen it used a couple times kind of in all my plays just because it requires too much forward planning. So would I recommend this one? No, I don't think I would. The basics of this game are solid and similar to other games, and the few things this game introduces to kind of differentiate itself didn't really work for me. I like the basics of the game. It's simple to teach, even if there are some rules you have to remind people about. I do like the 3D look of the game on the table when the game is done. And it's nice that all the warehouses are not identical. I like the length of the game as well. The ending is triggered by the building supply, so you will not go through all the cards in the deck, which makes the game, kind of a little more random and exciting. Will the cards you really want come up? If not, what's the best way to use the cards in the hands that you have? And since nobody owns any particular company, buying a few shares in other companies, especially ones that other players are vested in, is an easy way to get a little money with almost no effort on your part. And it gives you kind of more opportunities of where to play your cards. I also like the overall length of this one. It plays in about an hour, and for a game with this randomness, I think that's a good length. Unfortunately, there are some negatives. The biggest one for me are the event cards. They really seem like a tacked on mechanism. Now, it's not that I don't think there shouldn't be any events, but I think the events themselves needed to be reworked. Like maybe each event is the same. You have a few options, auction off the top cards from the deck, from either the discard or the regular one, or maybe an unsold stock. I also found that the action cards a little underwhelming, since most of the people I played with were not fond of the events, and the actions needed to place the rooms kind of seemed off. Most of the games I played, players usually had both of their action cards left at the end of the game, and maybe that could be group dependent. So I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. I feel the base gameplay is probably around a 7, but the additional elements, the event cards and the action cards, are probably around a 5 to 5.5, which brings my score down a bit, so somewhere around a 6. This game is an almost. I think with a little reworking of some of the ideas, like the level up cards and the events rethought, this game would be one I recommend, but as it is, I just can't. But that's it for the moment. Until next time, thanks for watching.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vassell.